We are live. This is the 1 year anniversary of the Be Life podcast. 1 year.
Wow.
The 50th episode. And we're live. And I didn't even know we were live. Zach's yelling at me. Hey, you're live. You're live. I'm like, oh, okay. We're live. I am a thorn between roses today.
Well, if you put it like that.
I truly feel like that. I'm joined, and this is everybody, by the way, who's ever hosted this podcast. And we've got Pastor Jimmy. Jimmy Black is the youth pastor, youth minister of, I knew who you were.
Okay, I just...
You thought, because I paused a minute, that I forgot what you do. He's a youth minister here at Canton Nazarene, does an unbelievable job at the young people, just has a infectious personality. Probably the best smile I have ever seen. Your smile, most people's smile just affects their mouth. Your smile goes your whole face. It affects your whole face.
A lot.
No, it's wonderful.
It truly is ear to ear.
It's a great smile.
Yeah.
And it really carries over to the kids. He does such an unbelievable job at the young people here, and is really called to do that. I'm also joined with we're joined with by Mike Gorfido. Mike is hosted the show at the beginning with us, and then he had a ministry that started out iron to iron. It started out with 2 people. He wanted 2 people. Next thing you know, how many did you have today?
We were right about 75.
75 people.
I like that he says it so nonchalant.
It was a slow day.
It's amazing.
But they've got they get hundreds of people there. They come to a warehouse. They just sit, they pray, they sing. Men from all over the place.
You know what we ate this morning?
What?
Cowboy grub.
Go ahead.
At 7 o'clock in the morning, cowboy grub.
I feel afraid to
All
ask.
credit to my wife. It is macaroni noodle, right? And it's got sauce, and it's got ground beef.
What kind of sauce?
Onion,
Tomatoes?
of course. Yeah, tomato sauce.
Okay.
Yeah, it's killer. It's
Sounds
absolutely killer.
Italian, not cowboy.
So my wife gets up at 4:30 this morning to stick it in the oven, right?
Wow.
She goes back to bed, and I'm going, this is my time. This is what we guys do. We embellish, right? So hard to improve on what she makes. She went back to bed. I get in the cupboard. I get out a big thing of brown sugar, and I just cake the top of it, throw it back in the oven, and it just crystallizes and caramelizes. Dude, it is so good.
How'd she feel about that?
She didn't know about it.
Oh, she does now.
She does now.
That's funny.
Wait till you get home.
It was killer.
She's like, where's all my sugar at?
She made enough for 75.
Oh, yeah, they pounded it.
Oh, you should see, the first time I went to that, it was in a gravel area behind the church, and it was like 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and it was cold.
Fog
It was
everywhere.
kind of fog, misty. They had coffee in those steel pots on the fire. So, I mean, you poured the coffee, and it just
on the
scalded
fire.
you. Oh, yeah.
Dude, I had to go to Amazon and get the old style percolators because I got rid of those a long time ago, right? When Mr. Coffee came out. And I'm like, I don't need this. And I'm buying $20 for 3 of these each. And I'm like, yeah, these guys want real coffee.
They were the cans.
No, I get it.
And then he had bacon, just throwing these big old slabs
big
of bacon
trays
on
of
the fire.
over the fire.
6:30 in the morning,
You're
just
smelling
eating
this.
bacon.
That's amazing.
Everybody smells like bacon grease.
Oh, it was just nasty.
And we're talking about Jesus.
Bacon,
Isn't that cool?
fire, and coffee.
And
That sounds like a perfect morning.
And so
That sounds really nice.
Mike took this thing and just God did through
God
Mike.
did. Mm-hmm.
But I knew Mike when he was talking about discipling people. We were having a Bible study and we were talking, and next thing I know, he's got iron to iron. He's printing out T-shirts. He's printing out vests. He's got hats. He's got whatever this is.
That's Yard by 9. So what we tell people is you got to read the back of it to make the connection. You start at 7 o'clock, get you out at 8:30. You're in your yard working, us guys, or you're at Home Depot getting your supplies.
I get it now.
We get you in your yard by 9 o'clock.
I thought it was a football thing.
That's awesome.
Yard by 9. And
you don't lose your morning.
Yeah.
And I'm also joined, as always, by Josh Potts, who is
Yay.
I truly believe, an incredible young man in many ways, multi-talented, incredibly talented. He and his brother Zach are just kind of like, phew, they fit together, and they're both extremely talented and smart. And then
Huge
Zach,
personality.
yeah, Zach Richards is our producer, and he's the one that was screaming at me, "We're on the air!" But we are on the air, and we are live, and this is 1 year.
Incredible.
And
Yes,
thank you,
that's
first of all, for, Josh, thank you for always being here. Thank you guys for coming back today. This was huge, having you both here. It means
pleasure.
a lot to us, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Good. I wanted to start out by asking, obviously we want to have fun with this, but I also want to ask you guys questions about and let people get to know you. And then also Josh brought some questions that I
Yes.
thought were going to be very interesting. They are, and we're going to use those too. But I wanted to start out by just asking you all, your journey, Christian journey. I know that I know that Mike and I weren't Christians all our lives. I don't know about you, Jimmy. I don't know. I think Josh was, but then went through and had to deconstruct and reconstruct. Were you a Christian? Were you just, you knew you were
Straight
Christ?
Christian, dude.
You were
Straight
born
Christian.
You
I was born
into-
and christened into Christianity.
Wow.
The pastor was there right when I came out. My mom he just baptized me.
No,
right there.
seriously.
And he started calling you pastor right
Yeah,
there.
right there. He already knew. Father James. No, I grew up in the church. I did grow up in the church. My parents were very devout Christians. My dad was very involved with the church as a volunteer, always out in the yard, helping out with that. And so I just knew Christ growing up. So at the age of 7 is when I actually made a decision for Christ on my own that I was going to follow Jesus. And it just grew from there. At age 11 or 12 is when I felt a call into ministry.
Really?
At a very young age. I was at a summer camp for kids.
Wow.
And I just felt it. And the pastor there that was like my camp counselor was really supportive. I told my family. It was really exciting. And then I started preaching at that age too. That was back when AOL was out. Do you know AOL
yeah.
on, the what do you
online
call it?
thing?
The phone lines. Yeah.
Oh,
remember
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to send out chain emails to people about my sermons. And
Really?
I was really, it was so cool. I was like, if you don't send this out, you're going to lose an angel in heaven, if you have to send it to like 20 people before. But it was really fun. And so I grew up in the church. Of course, we all have our backfalls from
Did
Christ
you ever doubt?
sometimes. I never doubted. The only time I doubted is when I would say a little bit doubt whenever I went to my university, Trevecca Nazarene University, just putting a plug out there, and a great university for pastors to learn theology. And that's the time I started actually being challenged, unfortunately. I was never challenged as a child or as a teenager. I just accepted it. So it was my college years that I got challenged a little bit on my faith. Never doubted my faith, but was challenged on different aspects of it because the professors there were kind of crude like that. They wanted you to be challenged. They didn't want you to just follow blindly. So since a child, I always been a Christian. And so it's been amazing because I have always known the truth. I have always known the way of life, and I've always had that hope. I never lived in despair, and so I'm blessed in that way.
You are, really.
Yeah, I am really blessed in that way.
You've raised, by the way, you're raising 3 incredible children who I love, and they're just amazing. His 3 kids are being raised the same way that he was raised, and they are incredible. They're great kids. That's interesting because I was called at 11 years old to throw nails out in the main street at 12 o'clock and watch cars ride over them.
Oh my gosh.
And things like that. I was
because I was called doesn't mean I was a good kid. I was
I
up to
bet
some
you were probably
bad
pretty
things.
good.
You know, pastor kids are really the worst kids. And because I was called to be a pastor, I was a bad kid too,
Were
probably.
you?
I did
I
really
doubt it.
mischievous things.
He was the bad boy of the youth group.
I
Well,
was.
Well, you do more stuff now, like breaking the wheels on carts and stuff.
Oh,
by
that's
Ru-
okay. That's mild to what I used to do.
You do that today?
I've
just
done
did
it
that about a year
recently.
ago.
Okay.
A year ago. It was recent.
Should I check my tires
You
before I back
should.
out today?
They might be deflated, just as a joke. Yeah.
And then we know, Mike, yours was kind of similar to mine, I think. I think it's an
Yeah.
Italian thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we Italians, we're pretty stubborn, aren't we? Right? You know?
But testadora.
Testadora. You got to
You
roll
know what that
R.
means?
Dora.
Head of stone. That's
yeah.
what I used to be called. That's what my friends and brother and everybody called me, testadora.
Speaking of Italian, you know what I'm going to do right after this is over? I'm going down to DeGordy's and get some mozzarella and pecorino
Ooh.
cheese.
I like how you
Just
went
thought you'd want to
cheese.
hear that.
Cheese.
If you don't know, it's cheese.
Cheese.
So what your journey was a little different. It was kind of like mine.
Yeah,
think
I was
you're kind of a hard head.
I defined what's in the dictionary today, the word lost. I was so lost.
You
Raising
thought you were found. You were so lost.
well, they put me in the lost and found, and nobody claimed me. They left me there. I'm like, all right. For 21 years, they left me there. So, yeah, I was 21 when I first heard, for the first time ever, the claims of Christ and the gospel message. And I'll be honest with you, I'm an old guy now, and I look back and I'm going, maybe I did. Maybe it was presented to me, and maybe I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
But when I heard it, to where I you know what, this is what life's all about. I was 21.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And Josh, obviously, we've talked many times. People know you and know that you went through a stage where you kind of deconstructed everything.
Yeah.
And maybe you're still doing that a little bit.
So like I've never doubted my faith in God. That's something that I don't know. People talk about it as if it's a universal experience to like go through. Well, is God even real? I never question that. But what I have questioned from the beginning is the system. Because I remember going to camp as a 5th grader, and my camp counselor, we had to fill out the little card before we got started of like our salvation date and our baptism date, and how often we read the Bible. Questions like that would just give our counselors a cue as to where we were at. And he was like, you never marked that you're saved. And I'm like, I don't really know what that means. And he's like, well, when did you like ask Jesus into your heart? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And he's like, everyone has this time where like they believe in God, they believe what Jesus did for them, and they invite him in. And I'm like, I've always believed that. What do you mean? Like, it was so confusing that I was being forced into this conversion experience, and there was nothing to convert from. Like, I never knew a world apart from God.
That makes sense.
And so, yeah, I think that was the start of my experience of questioning the system.
Yeah.
And then when we changed churches for a church that had a great youth group, shout out to youth pastors.
That's right.
It's true.
I wasn't allowed to use my Bible anymore. My VeggieTales New King James Bible that I loved so dearly. My mom told me, you can't use that Bible anymore. And I said, why? This is my Bible. And we were going to a church that was King James only. And so that Bible didn't count anymore. The Bible that meant so much to me it didn't work anymore. I had to get a new one. And I'm like, okay, hold on. And that was when my deconstruction like took another big leap, and then went through the process of going through church hurt. In my college years, we left the church we were at. It was pretty well an utter failure of church leadership, like, to be frank. And so I questioned the system of independent churches. Like, there's a reason why denominations exist. There's a reason why church is organized. And I got to witness all the shortcomings of an independent church that says God's my only authority. Well, that works great so long as everyone involved is following God very closely. So yeah, it's just been a process of reevaluating the system, always in pursuit of a God that I've known and loved in a personal way.
You know, it amazes me because you've always been. What I get from that is you've always known Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
But man has constantly tried to put barriers in front of it.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it's like, okay, just leave me alone. I'm good.
And so it's been good because, you know, why I believe what I believe, whether it's about orthodoxy or orthopraxy, like I feel pretty firm in why I believe what I believe. And
Yeah.
I always enjoy the process of conversations like these and being challenged by comments and questions. And I don't know, I love it so much because I'm anchored in that relationship,
Yeah.
right? And because I have that, I'm free to explore any of the other questions.
That is so true. I wanted to ask you, I'm going to just throw this out and you guys can answer it. Whoever wants to answer first, go ahead. But which Bible character is most like you and why?
Oh,
Which Bible character is most like you and why? Why do you think? And
Jimmy, I can't wait to hear your answer.
I was going to say Jesus right away.
There is one right answer, and that is it.
That is my answer.
Okay, we're done.
Oh man, I don't know. You know, a lot of people, and sorry about my voice, but
okay
a
with
lot
you.
of people go with Peter because he's a doubter and everything like that. I want to go against the grain a little bit. I think my person I would say I'm like is Paul, because now I never had that big conversion moment, but he had a passion to spread the gospel, even when the church wasn't supporting him in full. Where he knew persecution would come, he knew he had to work hard and other aspects than just ministry. And so I feel like I relate to him a little bit because I have that same passion to spread the gospel, but also I have to work, you know, full time somewhere else, you know, be able to keep a family life somewhere else. And so I like how Paul said, if you don't have to get married, don't get married because, you know, that's be a hindrance to you. And I get what he said, but at the same time, I love my wife and kids. I wouldn't trade them in for, you know, anything in the world.
Yeah.
But Paul would be a good, and you know what? I like to travel. I bet you Paul loved going to the different places just to see the different people. And so I love traveling. And so I think I would go with Paul. And plus, Paul was the best writer in the world because he wrote all the New Testament pretty
It's
much.
true.
So you know, I would think I'm pretty powerful too, like Paul. You know, I got the
I
power.
think you're powerful. You're quietly powerful.
Yeah.
Well, you're
So-
not that quiet.
I'm a little bit, but
What about you, Mike?
You know, that's a great question, and I'm thank you for taking the lead because I didn't hear a word you said.
that's
I'm thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say?
Thank you. So it wasn't that. It wasn't
No,
that.
it was fascinating.
Oh, it's good.
I want to be a Paul. I like to think that I'm a Paul, but
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a Timothy. You know, I love receiving instruction from people like Joe,
Oh,
who's
that's good.
been on
Yeah.
the journey, and he's got so much he can teach me.
Well,
Even just in the
That's
times
really
that we
good.
cross paths, I learned so much from a guy like Joe, you know, fellow guys who are on the journey. And so I love being a Timothy because I like receiving, how can I get better at this?
That's really good. I like that. I'm gonna steal your answer too. Who
Who
else am I gonna be like, Josh? You tell me.
I always like to like justify my actions by looking at characters in the Bible, right? So Gideon was like, I'm going to serve God and go out and tear down this idol.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime I want to like be reckless, I'm like, I can do it in the name of Jesus. I feel justified because Gideon did it. So sometimes I relate to characters like that when I need to justify myself. But pretty honestly, I feel like Josiah stands out to me because so many of the kings were concerned about expanding their territory, were concerned about wealth, were concerned about war and conquest. And Josiah was like, everyone just press pause. We're going to do a Bible study, and it's going to take days to get through this, but we're going to focus, we're going to learn, we're going to be inspired by it. And I think that's definitely my mentality towards things, is I'm that scholar who like, I will spend more time learning how to do something than actually doing it. Like I have a hobby room at home where I have a 3D printer and I have a sewing kit and I have a different type of 3D printer and I have a hot wire cutter, all for different hobbies because I like learning the hobbies more than I actually enjoy doing them.
So when you learn them, do you stop?
He stops.
I do. Okay. That's the problem is I'm trying not to, but like when I was little, I wanted to take guitar lessons. And I remember my instructor saying, all right, you're good. You've learned these, these 6 chords. You've learned some of your fingering. You've learned strum patterns.
You could play a worship song if you know 6 chords.
Yeah. He goes, all you need at this point is to practice. And I said, all right, I'm done. Like I learned how to do it. And if I need to practice and that's all I need, I have no interest in practicing. I had an interest in learning how it was done.
Wasn't Gideon the guy that did the fleece, like tested God sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Like I could be Gideon too. Thank you for that. I mean, because there's so many times in life, like I have this great idea to do something, but I'm like, God, is it right? Or, you want to press play and just go with it, right?
Yes.
And so I'm always like, God, am I right? Put some dew on this fleece I'm about to throw down. We'll see if I'm right or not, So
How many of you ever thought you were Nebuchadnezzar?
You got me, Joe.
I was Nebuchadnezzar. That's what
Is that the character who you linked to?
That's who I linked to when I was saved. When I finally gave my life to Christ, I was reading Daniel and I was Nebuchadnezzar. I was Nebuchadnezzar on the button. I saw myself as Nebuchadnezzar. I was this guy. Yeah, I know Lord. I know the Lord, and you're talking about Jesus and you're talking about God, and then all of a sudden you turn around and go, I'm going to chase after this.
So when you first got saved, you were reading Daniel?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the book that turned my life around.
That's awesome.
And it wasn't because of Daniel. It wasn't like, oh, I aspire to be Daniel. I was looking at myself and going, I'm Nebuchadnezzar.
That is so fair, right? Because
That's
Nebuchadnezzar
interesting.
was just like, he had his own ideas. He was going for it full force. Anyone who questioned him, he had no patience for them. And then suddenly God is real to him. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm completely turning my life around. And then just passionately followed God. And anyone that questioned him, like whatever he was for like full force.
But then he would go, oh yeah, Daniel, I love your God. And then next thing you know, he's going off here again. And I'm God again. And then God's got to beat him up and send him out for 7 years, eating grass and acting like an animal, being an animal. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, this is me. I was Nebuchadnezzar. Now I look at myself as the one I relate to most is John. And the reason John, one of the sons of thunder, he and James, just God, they wanted to burn down places. I'm going to send fire. Lord, let me send fire and burn them up. But I'm reading 1 John right now, and I wanted to read 1 John. I wanted to read 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. I wanted to study them because he uses no something like 36 times in 1 John. And everything is you will know. You will know. With John, everything is black and white. Mm-hmm. We talked last week a little bit about absolutism or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm absolute. It's like since I've become saved, everything to me is I know. And I shouldn't because I can't claim to know the mind of God, but everything to me is pretty cut and dried. It's like God, through that whole 1 John, he's saying, you will know they are Christians by this. Yeah. You will know. And when he says, they left us because they were never of us. Mm-hmm. Everything with John is cut and dried. And God had to teach him love. But when he finally learned love and that truth, ultimate truth, absolute truth, and with love, it changed his whole life and his whole ministry. But when he was walking with Christ, he was just like
That's
I
fascinating.
want to sit at the right hand.
Mm.
Hey, Mom, go ask him.
That's fascinating. About a year ago, I picked up and I wanted to read the Gospel of John, and I love that gospel. And one of the things that I noticed, because I love looking at people, I love watching people, I love seeing if my radar is accurate, is what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, is that who that person really is? Is that who they are? So one of the things with John in the gospel, I notice in first 6, 7, 8 chapters of John, John is that guy that put a flag on the top of the hill. He's going to go get it. He's black and white. He's going to go get it. I believe it. I know it. I'm going to go get it. And then I start seeing from about chapter 8 to the rest of the gospel, a softening in John's character. And I definitely picked up on it when I started seeing how he interacted and wrote the rest of the gospel, because all of a sudden he softened and he was more open to the things of God, and it wasn't that he wasn't as sure or knowing about his own ability and his own self. He just became a little more humble and pliable. And the rest of that chapter, and especially, you get to chapter 17, the great prayer chapter. What a beautiful chapter. The best, most favorite chapter in all the Bible, when that records Jesus praying to God his Father. And John didn't miss a beat, captured every bit of that. Beautiful.
And I look at, it's funny how everybody portrays John. And we talked about like white Jesus last week.
One of my favorite tropes.
Josh was saying, about white Jesus and all the pictures of this white. Well, think about how the artists always pictured John. He's always this milquetoast, pale, almost effeminate. He's got his head on Jesus.
Yeah.
He's reclining on Jesus. He's got this doe-eyed kind of look. I don't picture him like that
like a
at
puppy
all.
dog look.
Yes.
Yeah.
I picture him as he was one of the guys that wanted to throw fire on the city because they rejected Jesus. And he asked them, can we, hey, how about if we throw fire and burn the whole place up? And he softened, and he became the disciple of love. But he was never, I don't ever picture John as being soft, as being doe-eyed, milquetoast.
These are some great
wimpy
adjectives. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
Those are some great adjectives.
I wonder what he's thinking about me when I'm not around.
I wonder what Bible verse has impacted you the most in your life?
Whoa.
A merry heart does good like medicine. Proverbs 17:22.
That's interesting.
I think that having a positive attitude can change the way you approach any situation. And I think, I told you that when I was younger, I loved the book of Proverbs because it was just straightforward wisdom, and I can just pick the one that applies to my situation. And now I've come to love Ecclesiastes and be skeptical. The book that is just the devil's advocate to all of Proverbs. But some of those proverbs, are still really important to me, and I think that's definitely one. And it's something that's proven to be true in my life a lot.
Say it again.
A merry heart does good like medicine.
I like that. You got one, John?
Jesus wept is my favorite.
Cut it out.
No, it's not. It's not.
I feel like I'm in kids'
Like,
that's what I always say.
I'm not really good at memorizing verses, but the first chapter of James was really impactful to me as a child. I was a very angry child who would just say whatever. I was kind of mean to people. And I remember distinctively my mom saw the problem and she said, since you're a preacher, since
oh my
you're
gosh,
gonna be a preacher.
My mom used to say the same thing to me.
Did she really?
Oh yes. Ever since I surrendered to the call to ministry, she's like, "Well, I hold you to a high standard now."
That's one of those thanks, Mom.
Which is good, which is awesome as a parent. But James 1, there's a part in there because I used to get angry so bad, and there's a part in the later part of James 1 where it says, "Be slow to speech and quick to listen," somewhere around those lines. And you can look it up. It's further down in it, but it's really good. It talks about the tongue being such a dangerous thing and how we have to holster it, so to speak. And so it was impactful because then my attitude started to change because I listened to that scripture, and I actually listened to people before I was quick to speak about how they lied to me or how they make me angry because, you know, they said this or that, just processing it. And she made me become an introvert is what happened ultimately. Now I'm an introvert. I'm no longer an extrovert. But no, so that was probably the most impactful scripture I ever read that really changed my attitude in life.
That's interesting. That's good.
Yeah, that is good. I know for myself, and that's a tough question because for the vast majority of my Christian life, which spans the last 43 years, is incredible. Yeah, he's figuring my age. Yeah, whenever I tell anybody, when they ask me,
Just
like,
tell
you know,
them.
and
I was saved at 21, 43
You know,
years I've been saved.
when you go to get a prescription filled, right? You go into wherever you go, and they say, "Okay, what's the date of your birth?" And I go 5/13 OLD, and she looks at me like OLD. I said, "Just type it in." Anyways, so that's a hard one for me, but I would say, and this is going to sound super spiritual, and I don't mean it to sound super spiritual by any means, but Luke 9:23, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me.
Sounds super spiritual.
It does sound super spiritual. I want so bad to rewrite that verse.
Go ahead.
Can I go follow me first? Can I follow Christ? And then I'll look at maybe picking up my cross. And I really don't want to deny me, but that was not how it was written.
Yeah.
For me to follow, for me to pick up the cross, I got to deny myself. And that kicks my butt every day. So it sounds super spiritual, but I think that verse was written for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How about you?
Mine's Galatians 2:20, and that's my life, and I have to live it this way. As I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave his life for me. But really, the first part of that verse, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. I have to constantly surrender. It's like an addict almost. When you live in the world for so long, and you're used to the world, and then you have, for me, every morning I have to surrender my life, or else the pull for me is there. The flesh is strong in me.
Yeah.
And so that's where we have. I'm looking
What are we
at
looking
this.
at, guys?
I can't read that.
He needs his cheaters. It's funny when our producer was telling him that we're live earlier. I'm like, man, Joe, turn up your hearing aids, and I'm like, Joe, get your glasses.
I was confused. Joe didn't even know what he was doing.
I'm 72 years old. I've got hearing problems. I've been to a lot of concerts. I've got my eyes. Although I did have
You do have your
cataracts.
eyes. You're right. You do have your eyes.
My eyes are better than they used to be. All right. I don't know if anybody can read those, and if we need to, are there
All
questions?
they're saying is they're having an awesome time watching the live stream is what they're saying.
Oh, good.
We've had a steady number of people watching the whole time, so
That's
I'm
awesome.
grateful for
I'm
that.
so glad. I'm so glad. I wanted to bring up one thing, and this one's kind of off the cuff.
All right.
I want you
I got a
guys.
screenshot of the comments, but like I said, it's
Thank
not.
you. This is our first stream. Oh, wait, I don't know who wrote that. I think that was Zach. I'm reading Zach's comment. I don't want to read your comment.
Good job, Zach.
You got me.
If you can't tell by our technological prowess, this is our first live
I
stream.
know.
Yeah.
It really is.
We have a giant 80-inch screen TV in front of Joe right now, and he still can't read it.
Well, and the
So,
problem
he
is
still has his eyes. They're better, but they're not great.
Not what they need to
They're
be.
not
I'm
great.
old. I'm old.
OLD.
Yes, I'm old, and I accept that. I resemble that remark. I
Good job.
wanted to bring this up. If you look at the story of Peter
Yeah.
getting out of the boat, and Jesus is walking on the water and the waves. We're in the sea, and he's walking on the water and the waves and everything. And Peter wants to get out of the boat, and he starts to walk towards Jesus, and he's actually walking on the water. Then he takes his eyes off Jesus and starts sinking, and then he starts screaming, "Now, Jesus, help me," and Jesus saves him. If you look at that and then compare it to Jesus' parable about, "I am the vine, you are the branches." I want you kind of comment on that based on the two words that I think of when I think of that: freedom and peace. Those two and how they relate. Is that too difficult? Is this?
That's really hard for me.
Do I have to repeat this? But I'm all right. I'll start that out there.
There, that works.
Okay.
I'm looking. I looked at those two this morning, and I was just thinking of them, and I thought of how Jesus constantly told us that we can't exist without him, that our strength and our power comes from him, from the Holy Spirit, from the Helper, and that the rest that we have, when he says, "Come to me and I'll give you rest," and he gives us peace. He talks about peace all the time. That only comes when we keep our eyes on him. And I thought of that, and I also wanted to bring up the part where he talked about, "I'm the vine, you are the branches. You can only bear fruit in me." And it's the same. They're both the same, and they fit together the same way. I just thought about that. I don't know if it means anything. You're all looking at me like I got three heads, and why'd you even bring that
Lord
up?
bless you, Joe.
And
Lord
maybe
bless
that's
you.
true, and I'm fine.
No. I think
I
it's a
get
good
it.
one. Did you see that that episode of The Chosen that portrays
No.
Peter walking on water?
People love The Chosen, and I'm just like, I can't get into it. But that's a good scene, I guess. You know, it depicts it pretty well.
I've heard people talk about how much that scene meant to them, because in that moment, the scripture leaves it up to our imagination what's going through Peter's mind as he's doubting, as he's focused, as he's distracted, and in The Chosen they flesh it out a little bit more, and relate his doubts and his trust in that moment to other things that have been going on in his life. I haven't seen The Chosen. I literally haven't watched a single episode of it, but it's on my list. I'm gonna get there.
Well, you better catch up.
But I've literally heard multiple people talk about that scene in particular and how much it meant to them.
Wow.
Because they were they got to see the connection to the other areas of his life where he had an opportunity to exercise faith or feed the doubt, and it made it feel more alive to them.
See, to me, it was an illustration of what he said when he said, "I am the vine, you are the branches." It was as long as our eyes are on him, and as long as we're connected to Christ, we can do great things. We can do, and we do those. We don't do them. We rest, and they happen. But the moment we take our eyes off him and put our eyes back into the world and the storm around us and everything, that's when we start sinking. And that's the same thing as when we cut ourselves off from the vine and we think that we can do things on our own. And so I just thought of that.
I think that's a good one. As you're talking, I think of Hebrews chapter 12, and in the very beginning of Hebrews 12, where Paul, I believe Paul wrote Hebrews. So I believe Paul, when he wrote and recorded fix, he used that word, fix your eyes on Christ. So I think about that still to this day a lot. What does it really mean to fix? We're guys, and guys typically like to work with our hands. You have hobbies.
Not me.
You get bored after
He
you've
paints.
accomplished that how to do it. Then you look for something else. That's who we guys are, right? We're fixers. We like to do things.
My wife fixes stuff around our house for
Yeah,
us.
I don't fix
She
things
does.
either.
Jimmy, keep her around.
She's really good.
Keep her around. She'll bail you out a lot.
She will.
Yeah, but we like to fix things. So when I think of fixing things, the implication is I'm doing it. But in,
Yes.
when you think about what Paul was writing and he recorded that Jesus inspired him to write, to fix, the action is a simple action, but the hard work is keeping it there.
Mm.
And that takes a lot of work, a lot of diligence. And I think as, with the ministry I'm involved in, everything we do is about discipleship. Everything we do is about discipleship. We're not getting into heavy doctrines. The doctrines that are right before us are simple. And can I even walk with Jesus? And from there it gets very involved. So teaching that principle of fixing is key. It's everything.
Yeah.
And especially for us men, we're cavalier. We want to go out and ride our horse and grab that flag on top of the hill. That's what we want. It's how we're wired. If you've ever read the book I read a long time ago, Wild at Heart, it's kind of that same
Yes.
concept. Is that's how we're wired. But a simple action just to fix, stay there. And you said the word rest. That's when the sweet sauce comes in. And it took me years to learn that recipe.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. I think when
Me too.
I heard the word
Me too.
freedom and peace, like I'm going a different way than you, Joe, because I'm not thinking the same way. I'm like the vine and the branches, that doesn't connect for me, but whatever, that's fine. You have your own mind. Any which way. When I thought of that scripture, you think about Jesus, he's outside the boat. He says, Peter, come on out, whatever. And we know the story. And when I put those words, freedom and peace, what I think of is the world tells you you're gonna sink. You're going to fall. You're going to go in the water, right? And so my idea there, if I use freedom and peace, is Jesus can call us to do stuff that the world thinks that we can't do. And then there's peace when we realize we are able to listen to Jesus and he's going to take care of it for us. That's what I hear when I hear freedom and peace.
See, you just went into my mind.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I feel so much better. No, but you did.
The vine and the branches, that's going another different direction. I don't know where you went with that, but that's fine.
It's the same thing. It's like, okay, if I'm the branch, I don't want to do it again. I'm not going to do it again. I wanted to ask you another one.
All right.
And this one's important. I used to be a political junkie. And so
No.
He can't do it anymore because he can't hear it.
I know, because I don't care anymore. How does your Christian faith affect your view of global issues? How does your Christian faith affect your view of global issues? And I'm interested in this from your two standpoints because you have been Christians your whole life. You have given your life to Christ at a very young age. You don't know really anything else. Mm-hmm. And so how has it affected you growing up and seeing all the issues that happen in our world?
This is definitely a Josh question.
You don't even want to try to do that?
No, like Josh is going to give a profound answer that I'm just going to be like, I don't know. But Josh is really good. I listen to the podcast. I love the podcast. And this is a Josh question. I'm going to let you do this.
I don't know how profound it'll be, but it'll be honest. The tradition I grew up in was a very self-centered, egocentric tradition.
Explain that.
In an unhealthy way. So when we would see events happening on a global scale, the response would be, okay, so how does this affect our lives? How does this play into prophecy that will usher in the end times? Very, very eager for that. And so they would always try and draw connections from significant global events to prophecies being fulfilled, and we're closer to Jesus coming back. Yay for us. Like literally the tradition I grew up in was like, don't bother recycling because the world's going to burn. And
it's going to burn plastic and tires.
I have heard preachers say that.
Yeah.
God will do worse things than we will do.
Yeah. So I think the way I was taught to view those world events and the way I do now are two very different things. I think right now my Christianity shapes me in a way. It's been most impacted by mission trips that I've been on. And Jimmy and I talked about this one time on the podcast, and how mission trips give you a great perspective of these people in other countries that pledge allegiance to another flag, that speak another language, that eat different foods, that like they're still people. They're people that are very similar to me, feeling the same emotions, have the same sort of relationships. And then when I visit churches in these other countries and hear them worship, like they're praying to the same God I am. They're singing about the same God that I know and love. Like there's such a connection there. And so I think that the sort of fleshly, worldly allegiances that we have fade away compared to the unified relationship that we have as people, and specifically as the children of God. And so now when I hear about global events, my heart goes out to them. I empathize with those people. If it's a political event, I'm like, nations rise and fall. I'm not too worried about that. But when I hear about people that are suffering genuinely in other countries, it feels very close to me. Like those are still my people.
Does it make you feel unpatriotic at times? Do you ever go, "Oh, I'm not really a good patriot"?
Oh my gosh, I love ironic patriotism. And some people watching or listening might be offended by this. Like every 4th of July, Memorial Day, like I get in my car and I like turn on my radio and it's like, living in America. And I like have a t-shirt that has it's cut off at the sleeves and it has a giant eagle like holding fireworks and it says like, "This is America." And I love it.
We should go together on the 4th of July. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So I love like
I'll bring the
ironic
sparklers.
patriotism. It's fun. But no, ultimately that's the hate your mother and father and follow me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a bad American because I try and be a good Christian. And so like,
can you be both?
I love the American people.
Yeah.
I don't really love America. Right. So I love the people, but my allegiance isn't to a flag. It isn't to an entity. It's to the kingdom of God that's bigger than any country.
And that's an honest and bold and courageous answer, Josh. I truly believe that because there's a lot of people who won't get that, and think that and try and read stuff into that. So I appreciate that answer. You want to try and do one, Jim?
Try, yeah. I'm probably pretty opposite from Josh. I sing "God Bless America" every morning. And it's in our hymnal. If you know what a hymnal is, a book of
I don't know.
songs.
Why are you being sarcastic with me about that?
Do you do Pledge of Allegiance every morning?
I pledge allegiance to the American flag before I do the Christian flag. No, I went to a Christian school. We would do that. We actually did the American flag before the Christian flag. I'm very patriotic.
Is there a Christian flag?
Oh,
and there's a pledge to the Bible too.
Yeah. If you're in like Awana or one of those programs growing up, you pledge allegiance to the American flag, the Christian flag,
and
the Bible.
Flag? What is a Christian flag?
Yeah, help me. I've never
it's
heard of
white, and then it has a blue little square with a red cross.
You have a Red Cross flag.
You could go by churches. You might see them
You've never
raised
seen this
on the
before?
flagpole.
No.
Okay, they used to flank either side of this platform in our church, and then they got taken down for an event and just never went back up.
Yeah.
But if you go in old school churches, like you'll see at the front of the stage.
I've never seen it.
No,
maybe
I wouldn't know.
We'll educate you later.
I don't really want to know. I mean, that doesn't make. I don't want a flag. Why do we need a flag?
We need some kind of idol, Joe. Come on. So,
bingo.
So, any which way, I'm very patriotic. I grew up in the Boy Scouts of America. I'm an Eagle Scout. So is
really?
Josh.
Yeah,
so is Josh.
Both are Eagles?
Yeah,
we got our Eagles.
You guys are Eagle Scouts?
Man, we have so many skills and talents.
I won the
if
Pinewood
you are
Derby.
bleeding, I can get you all fixed up.
How many palms do you have?
If you can,
never mind.
If you can get bit by a snake, I'll help you out with that
really?
too. Yeah. So any which way. So I grew up in that kind of culture that we pledge to America, and I love America. Like I feel like America has so much resource that we can give to the world. I have also the mindset of Josh over here. I forgot your name for a second. Sorry. I have that mindset of Josh as well, where I need to love the world and I need to look worldwide.
You need to, but do you?
It's hard for me.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
really is. Even though I pledge my life to God and I have a heart for everybody in the world, because I've been culturized so much, I
Yeah.
feel like I have to put effort towards that more than I do of America is blessed.
Amen.
And you know what I mean?
I
And
get it.
so I'm a little bit opposite from
And
Josh
America
there.
is blessed, or was blessed. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's
We
continuing to
are
be
blessed.
I don't know. What about you, Mike? I have a feeling you're.
I love America. You know, I mean, coming from a third generation Italian, where my grandparents came over from the old country, and that was indoctrinated into me as a little kid
Yes.
because Grandma and Grandpa had broken English, and they said we will not speak Italian in our home,
Yes.
and they learned English just by listening to people.
Bro,
Yes.
that's interesting.
They learned English and their kids. So my dad never spoke Italian because it never was taught. So it was never passed on to me. But my grandparents were so proud. They were very proud to be Italian, but they were more proud to be American.
Yes.
So that kind of was inbred into me as a little kid. So that was easy for me. Now, let me fast forward. So my wife and I, we live in Massillon. My wife and I, Memorial Day. All right, Memorial Day, we have our Memorial Day parade downtown, just like everybody else does. In Massillon, our Massillon-McKinley parade in October is an hour and a half.
Yes.
And our Memorial Day parade, if you're
15 minutes.
if you're there, if you're 10 minutes late, you missed it. It's so sad.
Yeah.
But my wife and I, we get up early, we go buy some donuts, we get our
Is
coffee.
this for Memorial Day or
Memorial
McKinley?
Day.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And we go downtown, we set up our little chairs, we have our little flags that they hand out, and we are all in. We're all in. And we're so proud to be able to, clap and wave to the mayor and all that stuff. But that's an interesting question because I, as a Christ follower, my allegiance is totally to Christ and the Christian world. And then you see the liberalism, without getting into the political thing right now.
Oh, you can.
But the liberalism
go ahead.
That's
that
Joe's
we're seeing.
specialty.
I listen to Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you guys know who Charlie Kirk
Yeah, I
is.
know who Charlie
I
Kirk
listen to
is.
Charlie Kirk online, and I watch his reels, and I watch how he goes and debates with on college campuses with college youth. And he's very respectful. He's a Christ follower, very respectful of liberal views and stuff. But he learned how to ask questions to get young people to think differently. But he's very respectful of their answers. I learned a lot from that. But in the realm of patriotism, I'm very patriotic. But if I had to cut my finger today, I bleed the blood of Christ, and it doesn't matter where in the world you put me. I will give credence to where I live, but it's of the world. That's of the world.
I don't know where he was going when he said he was going to cut his finger.
We
All
are
I thought of was you're going to chop your
before we
finger off.
continue, can we sing "We Are the World"?
Can we stand?
Yeah,
Move our hats?
That's Michael Jackson, isn't it? That sang that song? Yeah.
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people.
Well,
Go ahead.
it was Children of the World that were singing with. Oh, was that Children of the World that he sang?
No, "We Are the World."
We Are the World. Okay. He just had a bunch of kids.
when you mentioned your family and how that impacted you, it got me thinking about my family. I'm like, maybe subconsciously my family did have an impact on me. And like, I have a chunk of family that comes from the Amish tradition, which are
Oh.
basically expats living in the United States.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
that has to do with like my
Could be.
influence of
Could
like,
be.
yeah.
Mine's very similar to his.
I think we're very influenced by our upbringing, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I said mine's very similar to yours as far as the Italians coming over, and there's a picture at Dantino's at the restaurant of my grandfather with about 200 people of the Sicilian Club. The whole picture of the Sicilian Club.
Your father's in a picture there?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather. He's in a picture on the wall?
At Dantino's?
Yeah.
There are two pictures. One's
Joe
his
put it
wedding
up
I didn't know
himself.
One's his
He
wedding
just
picture.
snuck the picture in.
If you look at the wedding picture, that's my grandmother and grandfather.
Well, we got to go eat some spaghetti sometime so you can show me that.
I will show you.
Dantino's has excellent veal.
Yeah, it's the best veal.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the best veal. It's
Yeah.
right out of Godfather. The best veal.
Huh.
Try the veal. It's the best in the city.
I go
Before you
into an
get you.
Italian restaurant. When I walk through the doors, I look to see if there's any bullet holes.
Yeah.
It's there's
There's a
just
place
a
in
thing.
Cleveland like that, by the way.
It's just a thing.
That's a whole nother
That's
story.
funny.
How
Are we
do
going to
you-
get to Josh's questions
No.
anytime
We're
soon?
good. My
All right,
Oh my
let's do
gosh.
that.
no. A whole bunch of the questions you have here, I had written on mine. So we're good. We're doubling over on.
We're
Well,
live till 4 o'clock today, so we can ask
Yeah, this
along.
is a 7-hour live stream.
No
A
bathroom
marathon.
breaks.
We're raising money. How do you interpret the concept of living in the world but not of the world? This goes hand in hand with what we just kind of talked about.
Where'd you guys come up with these questions? These
I
are
just-
hard.
I
Joe.
just
These
spent
are hard
some time
questions.
looking
I
at
know.
them.
Josh's
Yeah.
were easy.
Mine were
I
so
saw
like-
some. So like
How-
this.
how
I know
did-
how Joe just like goes on the podcast is like, well, we didn't mean to talk about this for an hour and a half, but I guess we got here, you know.
I'm sorry. How do you interpret? This is yours,
Oh no.
Jimmy.
Oh,
Pastor
Let's
Jimmy.
hear it, Jimmy. Let's hear the right answer.
How do you interpret the concept of living in the world but not of the world?
I don't know the answer to that right
Yes,
now.
you do.
Living
Stop.
in the world.
But not of the world.
Well, I'm living and breathing right now, right?
Yes.
You can't ask me these questions right off the bat here. That's why I like Josh's questions better. I'm living in the world, but not of the world. You know, it's hard, you know, in any kind of culture, any generation, you're going to be exposed to the world and you're going to have fun in it, right? You know, I had fun in the 90s, listening to some punk rock and some ska, going to concerts,
And
having
ska.
ska.
What is
Ska?
ska?
Y'all don't know ska?
It's
No, get out of
it's
here.
special.
It's
It's got like
it's a weird genre of
saxophones
music.
and trumpets in it. It's so good.
Did you know this?
You should listen
No.
to some ska. It's so screams 90s. It's what it is.
Who's so ska? What is a ska? What's ska?
It's
It's
a
a
type of
SKA?
sound.
Yes.
SKA?
type of
SKA.
sound.
SKA.
Are you into screamo music?
No, that was a little bit after I
Yeah.
got older.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of
you
ska?
know.
Ska.
We're,
I thought it was an Indian term.
we're definitely
So-
going to have to look that up.
You
after
know,
this.
I love things
I
that the
love
world
ska.
presents. You know, I have
Like, what do you
fun
mean?
with it. You know,
Like what? Give us an example.
just music is a good one.
All
I
right.
love music from the 90s,
Uh-huh.
a little bit from the 2000s, some from today.
How about
You know,
70s?
I don't know any of the 70s music.
Do you like
probably.
CCR?
You don't know the Temptations?
Is
You
that
don't
the
know-
people that sing about the rain?
Okay, next
You
question.
don't know Motown?
Joe and his
Okay.
Motown.
I don't I know who what's her name? Respect. Respect is. I know
Aretha
that song.
Franklin.
There we go. I know who
The
she is.
Temptations?
Temptations, I know that.
Four Tops?
Don't know.
Harold Melvin, the Blue Notes?
Okay, Joe. All right. I know you grew up in that era.
The
and so I
Letterman?
get it. So I mean, it's really fun to grow up in the world and be part of it, be
Yes.
part of things that are going on, right?
Yeah.
Because you are part of it, whether you want to be or not. You can't close your doors and be like, the world is going to end tomorrow, and then just
We clearly grew
live
up in
out
different
the world, right?
traditions.
Right.
So it's really fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be part of a conversation with people who don't know Christ. But what was the second ask?
Not of the world.
But not of the world.
Yes. So you can't get caught up in that stuff, right?
No, you have to know your limit. Yeah. You have to know, when this feels uncomfortable. Like, you could watch Family Guy. Family Guy is a really popular cultural show, right? But then they have things on there that are really kind of really sketchy, or what would you say it is, Josh? I don't know what you would
It's
call
like
it.
two different people, two different conversations going on. You got these guys and us.
But
Yeah.
they
I
make
don't even know
fun
what
of
they're talking
so
about now.
I
With the
guess
OLDs
they
over
make
here.
fun of Christianity a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's where your mindset has to change as a Christian. Is this appropriate for me to watch? Would Christ be happy that
Do
I'm
you
even
keep watching it then?
No, so you stop watching it. You don't support it.
Have you
know
ever
what I
walked out of a movie theater?
I wasn't allowed to go to movies as a child because my parents were Christians.
It's too
True
worldly going into the
Christians.
movie theater.
You couldn't go to a movie theater?
No, so really quick story. Like when I was a kid, my neighbors used to give us Christmas gifts. And I remember one year my neighbor gave us gift cards to go to the movie theaters. And we had to take it back to the neighbor's house and say, we're sorry. So I wasn't allowed to. My first movie I saw was when I was 13 years old.
Did you sneak?
No, like my buddy, he's like,
All right.
well, you know, when you go to a friend's house,
Now I'm
like
curious.
you do things.
I want to
that
know
you're
what
not
that movie
supposed to.
was.
It was called Heavyweights with Ben Stiller. Such a bad movie. It's such a bad movie.
Movie you ever saw?
It was the worst
About
movie.
Gone with the Wind
No.
or something classic.
Well, that's old. I don't know about that. But no, like, you know, we weren't allowed to go to movies. So I never had that experience of walking out of a movie. But we had a rule in our household, though, too, where we got 3 strikes, right? If we were watching a movie, if they said the S word or the A word or the GD word or 3 times, then the movie was off.
Really?
Type of deal.
Okay.
So I grew up in that kind of household where we knew there were limits to what we should watch and what we could do, you know, what we were able to and what we were not able to. So when I live in the world, I just have fun in the world. I experience things with everyone else. I don't close myself off to the world. And I know some Christians, that's the way they live. And probably that might be the only way they can live, or else they'd be too involved in the world outside of Christ. And I get that. Like, I totally get that. But I was taught at a young age how to know the limit to where it's being a Christ follower or just being part of the world. So living as a Christ follower, living as a Christ follower, I feel like it's just knowing, you know, what is too worldly, so to speak, where it's just going to a different side than what I follow.
Do you feel,
I don't know.
Do you feel that kind of restriction?
I mean,
you did growing up.
Yeah, the tradition I grew up. Jimmy said you can't like not live in the world. The tradition I grew up in, like straight up, like I didn't listen to secular music until I was like 16. I didn't watch a movie until I was a teenager.
Really?
Or in like a movie theater, because if you're going to the theater, you could be watching something inappropriate. How do you know if it's good or bad? You know, what if someone sees you doing it?
See, I grew up in the 50s, so nothing was inappropriate on the screen. Go ahead.
They managed to make
everything.
They managed to make
you had
everything
a screen
inappropriate
back in the 50s.
Ouch.
Did you say I don't care.
My tradition deemed anything they didn't like worldly, inappropriate, sinful, ungodly, and it was really, really culturally dependent, because it was easy to call them on the hypocrisy of it. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, you can't listen to music that has a driving beat," was a term they used, because that was too worldly and that might get you to move your body in an inappropriate way. But they would gladly listen to us.
David danced.
Yeah, but that was not a good example. You know, David danced. David also like impregnated a woman that wasn't his wife and had the dude murdered. So, you know, dancing is, in their mind, dancing was equivalent with those other things.
Did the dancing come first?
But the dancing pleased God. The other part did not please God. No.
Yeah, so it was a culture that was just like, avoid all of those things. Now I don't know. I try all sorts of things, but I feel like I am a restrained enough person to not go off the deep end. Like I just started getting into horror movies last year.
Slashers.
What'd
I
said
ew. I hate horror movies. I can't.
My son likes them. I hate them.
I like thrillers. Like I like feeling like I'm on the edge of my seat. And so then I got into ones, you know, a thriller movie that has a monster in it. And then, you know, I watched the new Nosferatu that was a recreation of a classic movie.
That movie.
It was horrifying.
So why watch it?
It was horrifying.
Did it keep you up late at night? You didn't want to go to bed?
No, but I did jump out of my seat multiple times in the theater. I've only ever been drunk once. I've only ever been high a few times. Like I'll try things because I like trying new things. I like learning new skills. I like having life experience.
I don't think that's a skill. No, I was thinking that too, Joe. Like,
I like new skills. I became very good
That's
at
a
this.
great excuse, Josh. That's a great excuse.
Listen, if I rolled my own cigarettes, you'd be like, "That's a skill. That's impressive." I don't know.
That's funny.
I like trying new things. I like experiencing the world. I feel like I'm a person who has the restraint to not go off the deep end. Like I have no problem, placing bets on sporting events without having a gambling addiction. Things like that.
Yeah.
He lives a little bit closer on the edge than I do. I'm gonna say that.
Oh,
Josh
yeah,
does.
yeah.
But like I know my limits. Like
That's
I know
the
my
thing.
limits.
Being aware, being mature, asking the question of, is this okay?
but
Like
let me-
I will ask that question.
But is it about knowing your limits? You see, when you say knowing your limits, to
Mhm.
me, that means that
I
you're-
passed the limit. Is
no,
that
no,
what
no.
That means?
That means you're relying on yourself. And see, if
I
I
get that.
if I try and take it and know my limits, I will cross those limits. I mean, I know myself well enough from my past.
Yeah.
If I'm not completely surrendered to Christ and the Holy Spirit in the steps that I take, then I will cross that line.
So can I retract saying my limits to, like I said earlier, I kind of feel the Holy Spirit just reach out to me like this is not appropriate. So
Being sensitive to your convictions,
Yeah.
and being sensitive to the leading of the Spirit.
right.
Yes.
So I think I hit the same point you do. Relying on the Holy Spirit, you have to rely on the Holy Spirit to know what is right and what's wrong, because
Yeah.
you can get caught up in the worldly things to
Oh,
do
yeah.
because they're fun. A lot of them are fun. And so that's when you have to rely on the Holy Spirit to be like, hey, back off of this, please.
And I
You
think
gotta get rid of it.
The other part is with the world for me is don't restrict. I don't want to be told that you can't do this. I don't want to be told that I couldn't have a beer, or that that I can't dance.
Mhm.
If I want to dance around my kitchen at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I have done,
Clothed.
clothed.
I am picturing this whole thing. I'm very graphic.
5 in the
I'm
morning,
picturing
like
this
you
whole
don't
thing.
know.
A song comes on. I've done this, and Kirby has filmed it from outside.
That's so funny.
See, that's why you can't dance in your kitchen. What if someone's filming? What if someone looks?
My wife is filming, and she's laughing at me outside. But I did. But here's the point. I didn't want to go off on this. The point is this: I don't want to be restricted. God, my new life in Jesus Christ is freeing. It's freedom. I trust in the Holy Spirit to guide me and to keep me straight. And I love Jesus so much that I want to obey him.
Yeah.
And I want the blessings that come with that.
Yeah.
But don't tell me, I don't want to be in a place that says, you can't do this, or you can't do that, and you can't do this. And I used to coach at some Christian schools, and one was Greenville College in Greenville, Illinois. And I don't want to, it's a wonderful school, but they had all these regulations for the students, and they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, they couldn't do this. And Kirby and I went to St. Louis one time, which is about 45 minutes away. We went to St. Louis, and we ran into all kinds of students there. And they were like, they saw me, and they were running up to me, and they were panicked. Coach, don't tell people. Please don't tell. I said, look, just go drive safely, be careful, enjoy yourselves. I didn't come here to spy on you.
Yeah.
But they immediately thought, oh, I'm in trouble. And yet they were out doing things that the school didn't want them to do, but they were escaping to do it. So restrictions to me push me over the edge.
I've seen so many people from my tradition that grew up, they were homeschooled for the purpose of sheltering them from the world. They had all those restrictions, all those do's and don'ts, and a lot more don'ts than do's. And the minute they had their freedom, the minute they had their adulthood, went off the deep end.
Yeah.
and several of them, their lives are still a bit of a hot mess right now.
Yeah. And that's why being of the world, or being in the world, we're in the world. We're not of the world because we're changed. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. So I can't live. I don't live like that. And it's not because I have restrictions. And it's not because I don't necessarily like some of those things, like you said. I do like some of those things. I like dancing. I like dancing
Man,
around.
I feel like Joe's taking the
5 in the
dancing one
morning.
personally.
Well, I did, because I've been in schools where you can't dance, and I'm a terrible dancer, and I won't dance in public because I'm so bad.
We're gonna have a dance party here.
I'm
in a minute.
stiff. I'm really stiff. But if I want to dance around my house, I'll do it.
Joe's starting the dance party already.
We got to censor this part of the video.
That was good, Joe.
I dance because I got kids.
good.
I dance because of kids.
That was good. It's interesting. I'm enjoying this question and listening to you guys because, obviously there's a generational thing here too. We have you two guys who are obviously a little younger than Joe and I.
Little.
Yes.
A little younger, but you both grew up in the church, as opposed to opposite of what Joe and I have experienced.
Yes.
In my own marriage, my wife grew up in the church.
So did mine.
Did she really?
Yeah, Kirby grew up in the church, youth group, the whole thing.
And guys like Joe and I,
Luther
we
League.
did not. We came to Christ at a different time, and we didn't grow up in the church. I didn't go to youth camp. That sounds pretty cool. That would be a lot of fun. Man, I'd like to have done that. But I didn't even know that existed, those kind of things. But
or flag.
Yeah, or a flag, right?
Or a Christian flag.
Here's a filter that I use in my life all the time, because I'm like you, Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified. So, I used to do all those wild and crazy things. And heck, even after I accepted Christ, I was still smoking 2 packs of cigarettes every day. 2. That's a lot of nicotine. And that's a lot
of money too.
Back then, it was a whole lot cheaper than it is I believe today.
That's true.
But I haven't smoked for years and years and years and years. When I'm in the world and I'm around somebody that's smoking, it's not like an addiction because I buried that with Christ. But it smells good.
Yeah.
And
cigars.
It looks good. Oh, yeah. And I have to really work hard not to want to pick up a cigarette, because I immediately go back to those days when I was in charge of my life.
Yeah.
So the filter I run through, that I run everything through, and it's and you guys would probably know it. I just know what it says, where the verse and handle. It's all things are permissible, not all things are beneficial.
Yes. So good.
That's a filter I use today because I want to go back sometimes to my old lifestyle. But I have to remember, no. You guys won't know this, and I don't know, Joe, if you've ever heard this. It was real popular back in the 60s. There was a term that was used back in the 60s, and it was crisis of belief. You don't hear that term. You haven't heard it for years and years and years. It's not a term in the Bible. But back then, it was very common because so many people were coming to Christ, not growing up in the church. They were coming to Christ at a later time in life. And it was a crisis of belief that at some point in your Christian life, you go, is this really real? Is this really what I want to believe? You're in the world, not of the world. We rub shoulders all the time with people who are as secular as it gets. And they haven't even had that experience, let alone a crisis of belief. Because there's times that I go, Graffito, and I identified it because it was about 6 months after I first accepted Christ. I had a crisis of belief to say, you realize there's no going back.
Yes.
You realize
I did that too.
There's no going back. And that was a crisis of belief. It was very common in the 60s of what was being taught to say, do you really believe what you say you believe? Because
this is final.
This is final.
I'm stepping over the line, and this is it.
You go back, you're a hypocrite.
Yes.
All of those things. It's a farce. Is it a farce? Is it real? Is it not real? Faith is believing what you can't see, touch, feel. Is that real?
And there was all the other stuff.
Is that
Let
real?
me tell you this. let me ask you this. I don't want to tell you this. Let me ask you. There was this also part about turn the other cheek.
Yep.
Being, I'm gonna use the term milk toast again, but being that guy that, oh man, I become a Christian. Now I can't beat up Jimmy or somebody. I can't. I have to.
Punk.
Now wait a minute. I have to. Now I have to be. I can't be bold. I can't be strong. I can't be.
Yeah.
I gotta walk down the street and just
be a pushover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that scared me. That really scared me. And it wasn't. And when I became a Christian, then I realized I'm even stronger. But before,
Totally.
I was thinking, I don't want anything to do with this stuff. These people are just like, you could walk over them. And I want to go after everything. I want to be. And the other thing that I miss is my white 3-piece suit with my 4-inch platform heels and my silk shirt that buttoned down to here. I miss that.
You could probably dance pretty good in
Yeah.
that.
I'm getting this glass ball Chris disco day kind of picture here.
There I am.
It's true. I did have that. I wish I had a picture of it with sideburns down to here. Hey, we're out of time.
Wow,
I could
that
do
was
this.
fast.
I could do this forever. You guys are a blast.
This has been a blast.
It's been fun.
You guys are so much fun and you're so real. And this is what I love about being around Christian men. And this is true. If we were not, everybody'd be wondering, everybody'd be thinking with their answers, oh, I have to put on the best face I can. Being around Christian brothers allows us to just be raw and to be courageous and to be bold and to not care and to say what, because who's going to judge us? Who's going to judge us? And it's so wonderful. I love you all. And this has been one of the best experiences I've had in a long time. I thank you so much for being here with me and being with us and putting this together. Zach, we're still on, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to sign off. I'm going to let you do this. You do this so much better than me. Would
He
you
does.
please?
He does really
I know.
good, better than you.
Yes, I agree.
Every week.
I
Yeah.
agree. I know my limits, pal.
If you guys are watching us live, we want to thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the content or were challenged by it, or you just want someone else to hear about it, you can give us a like. If you're not subscribed, we would love for you to do that. You can hit the bell for notifications so you get alerted every time we drop a new episode or when we go live again, because this won't be the last time. If you're listening to this later on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we would love for you to give us a follow, rate and review this podcast so more people can find it. And our hope and prayer is that we can be life to you, that we can ignite some good conversations and some good thoughts in your own life. And we'll see you guys again next time.
He's so good.
He is so good at
Fantastic.
this. He's got the voice too.
He does. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
awesome.
you, guys. That was a blast.
It was fun doing this with you guys.
Hold up, we're glitched out.
Oh no,
What?
we're gonna be live forever.
Are we still on?
Oh man, they just heard everything you said,
The
Joe.
Wi-Fi just crashed right when Josh was doing his intro.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's
Oh,
funny.
so what do we got to do?
Do we do bloopers now?
Yeah.
So Josh
That's
didn't,
what Joe dances.
Josh didn't get his stuff on?
It crashed.
Oh.
Does that